Then we came to New York Temple, and Prabhupada gave a lecture, and coincidentally enough, he spoke about Indians, and he said especially those who are born in India, Bharat Bhumi te hoile manusya janma ja, janma sarthak kari kara paropakar. They should make their life successful by becoming Krishna conscious and deliver others. And I was there in the crowd and I was hearing, and I felt like, he was telling me that, you're just wasting your life, become serious. And because the environment was so nice, and it was like I was making a very rapid progress. And then the devotees was everywhere. It was 400 devotees in a little 439 Hannah Street building. So it was really crowded. Next morning, around 11 o'clock, I remember, I was just hanging around Bhagavan Prabhu. And Bhagavan Das said, just wait here and see, whenever I get a time, I'll take you. So he took me in to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was sitting alone in his little room there. And he said, Prabhupada, this boy is an engineer in Detroit, and he's now chanting Hare Krishna, and he's read your books, and he wanted to meet you. So Prabhupada said, oh yes, what is your name? I said, my name is Janak Joshi, and where are you from? I'm from Surat. Oh, you're from Surat. Surat is a very nice place. I was there and I received a very good reception. People were very, very pious, and they were very interested in chanting. It's a very nice place. What are you doing? I'm an engineer. So you work as engineer, and whenever you have sufficient money, you go and build a temple there. So this was the first instruction that Prabhupada gave me when I met him. Incidentally, Prabhupada's first instruction was fulfilled. Now we don't have, not only we have temple in Surat, but we have temple in Ahmedabad, Baroda, Surat. We have 6 temples in Gujarat right now. In Surat we have a very beautiful temple just opened last year on the bank of the river Tapi. It's also a very nice place, Radha Damodar temple. Then I remember I was sitting there, and he was also talking about one devotee who was, I think he had some fall down, and the lead Kirtananda Maharaj, somebody brought the news that Prabhupada, your servant has had some affair with some lady here. So Prabhupada went like this. He said, in the old days, the Kshatriyas had more than one wife. So he said, so whatever you want to do, you do. So they said, but he should not be your servant, Prabhupada. So he said, okay, so give me another servant, no problem. And I saw the air of detachment and the air of, and the mood of tolerance. Prabhupada was such a tolerant person, because he was just thinking that in this age of Kali, especially in this country, whatever people will, whatever percentage of my teachings people will accept, I'll accept it. It is 5%, 10%. And gradually maybe people, as the time goes, they will advance. So whenever there was a problem, he never made a big thing out of a problem. That I saw the first day, in my first meeting in New Vrindavan, I saw the way he was so nonchalantly said. He did not condone the activity, but just to cool down the people who are complaining. He just said that, in the old days, Kshatriya had more than one wife. So, but then he removed him as a servant. I remember another thing, when we were in the evening in Prabhupada's hill. So Prabhupada, Keshava Prabhu, he was the president of San Francisco. He had brought a big bus there, and he wanted to show Prabhupada his bus. So Prabhupada saw the bus, and He said, oh, this is wonderful, very nice. So then he said, so Keshav Prabhu, are you thinking of getting married? So Keshava said, no Prabhupada, I'm happy as the way I am. And Prabhupada said, yes, that is very nice. Marriage is like you're walking nicely on the street and then you pick up a big stone and put it on your head. So marriage is like that. It's a big burden. A brahmachari life is very nice, simple life. So why take a big burden like that? That's another thing I remember. So on the Janmashtami morning, I was supposed to be initiated. So, I was kind of raw. I didn't know what was coming. And then all of a sudden, Prabhupada's servant jumped from the car. Prabhupada was coming to the initiation ceremony. And his servant jumped out of the car and he saw me and said, hey, Janak Kumar, Prabhupada said that if you want to be initiated, then you have to shave your head. So, all of a sudden, I was still working outside and I had to shave. And I said, what should I do? I was thinking. Now there was no time to go back and forth to Prabhupada because he was already in temple room for the initiation. So devotees in Detroit, devotees from Detroit, they said, come on, your hair is going to come back, just shave up, what's the big deal? And you're getting this wonderful opportunity. Pure devotee is going to initiate you, as agreed. So I said, okay, and then Narottamanan Prabhu shaved me up, last minute. And then when I took a shower and put clothes and went to the temple room, and Prabhupada saw me and said, there was everybody sitting there. So he nodded like that. And then I sat down and I was initiated. Your name is Jashomatinandan Das. Later on I asked Prabhupada, I thought, if somebody was working outside, he could keep hair. Prabhupada said, the hair will come back, but in a Vaishnava ceremony, if you want to sit down, you should shave your head. He was very kind. I think this was Krishna's dictation to him, especially for me, because I was such a difficult and tough person. And without that special dose of mercy, I would not have been what I am today. I was so embarrassed to go back to Detroit. I just left that life and went to Chicago and started a new life as a brahmachari in the ashram. And that would have never happened. I would have never actually made that progress. So that was also one thing that now I look back, I think it's Krishna's dictation to him. That he had a way to, had different medicine for every person. He was an expert doctor. And I can never thank him enough for the way he transformed my life. I asked him about Jesus Christ. I said, Prabhupada, you say Jesus Christ is the pure devotee. But he never mentioned the name of Krishna. Or he never chanted Hare Krishna. So how can we say pure devotee? So Prabhupada said, because he had no material desires. He was free from material desires. Therefore he is a pure devotee. So this is one thing he taught us. Ever since then my esteem for Jesus just went high. And I look upon him as any other acharya. In fact, Jesus, he was a very bold acharya. And because he was a great preacher, Prabhupada had a natural appreciation for him. No other Indian swamis or yogis or teachers, they could have that kind of appreciation of Jesus as Prabhupada had, because Prabhupada himself was doing the same thing as Jesus was doing. So I went to LA and here, I also got married here after 3-4 months of being here to a devotee girl. She was also Prabhupada disciple, and we've been married 30 years now. And I wrote to Prabhupada about that I was going to get married. And Prabhupada said, yes, that is very nice. I heard that you want to get married. Husband and wife, double strength. He said. He encouraged like that and blessed like that. Then when Prabhupada was here in December, we had a fire sacrifice Jayatirtha Prabhu had done. And Prabhupada gave a ring from his finger to my wife. And because we were going to India, he gave us a lot of blessings and encouragement. I also remember one time Prabhupada was sitting in his garden and he started speaking about how he was almost frustrated in coming to America because he was trying for P forms from the Indian government to come to America. He had gone from one department to another department, and they were not giving him. He had convinced Sumati Morarji to give him a berth on her steamer, but then Indian government had to sanction his P form. So he said, I was frustrated, I was getting out of the office, and then one Bengali gentleman he saw me and he said, he spoke to me in Bengali, how are you, Baba, what do you want, is there anything you have come here for, Swamiji? So he said, yeah, what is your name? My name is Banerjee. Oh. So I started speaking to him Bengali, and that man, Banerjee, he went around from this table to that table and got his P form sanction. And he says, just Krishna's mercy. So how much I tried and it didn't happen, and this man, immediately last minute he did it. So he helped me, and then I came to America, and I used to go to, sometimes I would go back to the pier on which I landed and ask, when is the next steamer going to back to India? Because I was trying very hard and I was struggling very hard. So one man was there, Indian man, he said, Swamiji, you have asked so many times, but you are not going to India because you have come with a mission. So Prabhupada said, actually I also did not want to go back without getting some success. But I would go and ask just, when is the next steamer going to India? So finally, his mission took off, and so that portion he was narrating. And I think Sasurma was also there at the time, sitting in the garden. It has been recorded. But I remember that very intimate discussion once in his garden. Then in his room, I remember once Giriraj Maharaj's parents coming there, Giriraj Das Brahmachari. Giriraj had just come from India after being in India for 3-4 years. He was a little sick, so he had come to Chicago, and then he came to Los Angeles. And Giriraj's parents came to see Prabhupada in Los Angeles. And his father was a very respectable man. He was a judge in the court there. And it appears that his father was making some gesture to Prabhupada that if there is anything I can do for you, I would be happy to do it, giving donation, huge donation, whatever. Would you please let my son come back to his family? So, because he was the only son of his parents. So Giriraj was sitting there, and Prabhupada said, so Giriraj, what do you think? So Giriraj said, no, Srila Prabhupada, there is no power in this world that can now separate me from your lotus feet. So Prabhupada smiled and he told his father, actually I am not keeping your son. But he likes this Krishna consciousness, so he is staying. I have no objection if he comes to you and continues this activity at home also. But I cannot force him to leave because he has come to me. So, but I can assure you that he will be very happy and peaceful here, and he will make you proud, father. And then his father is a kind of a, he was a jolly man. So there were so many exchanges. But I remember that both mother and father left very happily from Prabhupada with a very positive impression of Srila Prabhupada. So he knew exactly how to conduct himself, especially with the parents of the devotees. He sympathized with them. When I went back to India in 1974, my parents also went to see him. And my mother was saying, our only son, we put all our money, everything to send him to America, and he has now left everything and joined. So Prabhupada said that, he has joined here and you can also come and join. I will give you a room, I will give you a nice place to stay. And your son has now become a devotee of the Lord, so you should be proud. There are so many people who go to America and make money, but your son is a very rare person. And he talked to them so nicely. So I remember my mother afterwards saying, your Guru Maharaj is a very kind-hearted person. So any bitterness or any resentment that anybody ever had, when they sat in front of Prabhupada, it melted away like anything. Another thing at another time I asked Prabhupada, how did Lord Ramchandra disappear? So Prabhupada said that the Vaishnavas do not discuss the disappearance pastimes of the Lord. But he entered in Saryu river and along with the whole Ayodhya. Now finally I read in Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, the Lord Ramchandra entered in the river Saryu, and along with him the whole Ayodhya entered, and they went to Vaikuntha together. So they gave me another very important principle, that the pastimes, the disappearance pastimes of the Lord is not very much discussed by the devotees. Another time I asked about Rupa Goswami, and I said that Rupa Goswami was born in a Saraswata Brahmin family, very exalted Gauda Saraswat family. And he was such a great scholar in Sanskrit, and he had a very powerful Vedic background. Why does he feel so low that he also did not enter the temple of Jagannath, Rup Sanatan? That's what I asked him. Why would they not enter the temple of Jagannath? Well, they were actually just because they associated with Muslims. So Prabhupada said, well, associating with Muslim means adopting their habits, like meditating and other things like that. So maybe they also had associated with them in that way. So they felt like that. Very pragmatic person, maybe. But he said, but everything they did was under the dictation of Krishna. They are eternally liberated souls, Nitya Siddha. So it doesn't matter what they did. Also I asked about another big Bhagavat reciter in India, probably the biggest ever. He is no longer there, but he was there very big then. And he had a very saintly character. His name was Dongre Maharaj. So when he gave Bhagavat recitation, he would shed tears from his eyes, and even the audience would cry the way he would speak. Mostly he would speak in Gujarati, but he had become famous all over northern India. He also spoke in Hindi. Even till today, people revere him as a great Bhagavatam reciter. So Prabhupada said, I don't know about him. What does he say? So I said that Well, he does speak about Krishna's pastimes, but he also says that you can worship whoever is your Ishtadev, whomever you believe in. And you can also chant Om Namah Shivaya or cling Durgaya Namaha, Chamundaya Namaha. There are several mantras that he prescribed. Even though in his own katha, he would generally chant Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. That's the mantra he would describe. He would himself recite. Prabhupada said, if he thinks that the name of Krishna and name of the demigods is the same, then he is not Dongre, he is Dongre. Dong means pretension, make believe. So it is not Dong, it is Dongre. It says that the devotee, Vaishnava, will not say that the holy name of Krishna is equivalent to anything else. So he never judged a person by his looks or by his name or by the style of speech or by the tears he shed, but he judged the person by what he spoke, the philosophy, the Siddhanta. So that was a nice experience hearing. He would speak, whoever came, he would give philosophical, instructions. That was his life. Whoever came, after 2 minutes, he would start talking about Krishna. And he used to keep this book, one by Dr. Radhakrishnan and one by Gandhi. And he used to show to very intelligent, prominent people, see what Dr. Radhakrishnan is saying, that this Kurukshetra is not a historical place. Kurukshetra means your body. 5 Pandavas means your 5 senses, and Kauravas means all the evil desires in the mind. And originally this poem of Mahabharata was written by some poet who assumed the fictitious name Vyas, and then somebody else added something, and somebody added something else, and it became a big epic. But it's not written by one man, but by several people. Like that, his Indological ideas which he learned from Westerners, that's what he was propounding. Prabhupada was blasting. He said, today historical place is there, Kurukshetra, and thousands of people are visiting, and he says Kurukshetra is not there. So, how can you learn Bhagavad Gita or hear anything from such person? Then he also had one book by Mahatma Gandhi, Essays on Gita. In one of the statements, Mahatma Gandhi says that if all these activities that are attributed to Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, if all those activities are true, if actually such a person existed who performed these pastimes, then I refuse to accept him as God incarnate, even at the cost of being banished from Hinduism. So Prabhupada was very furious at this. He said that he had no understanding of who Krishna is. Krishna's pastimes are not material, they are transcendental. And of course, if God is there, then he must be the supreme enjoyer. Obviously, you have the tendency to enjoy, he must have it. Your tendency to enjoy is perverted reflection of his tendency to enjoy. He is the original enjoyer. And for you, you should banish yourself for desiring to actually enjoy pastimes with other female, who are actually all God's wives, God's Prakriti. He is the Purushan, every other Jiva is Prakriti. Therefore, your wife is also his wife. So our desire, we don't have any right, but God has all the rights. Like that he would explain to the people who visitors who came. And this way, even Gandhiji said in his autobiography, actually Experiments with Truth, that I always suffered from the lack of spiritual instructions because I never had a spiritual master. He admitted it. But still he made this kind of wild comments. But in his biography he has admitted that I never understood spiritual life. And I suffered because of that. Sometimes he would be very tolerant of his devotees. When whole thing happened about New York activity, Balimardan and his wife story. So he got some letters from New York and he was reading. And then he said, the whole problem is this sex life. He said, Janme sunadi grihamedi sukhami tucham, thu. Tucham means, thu means spitting. It's useless. He said, all sex life is bad, but especially illicit sex is very bad. So, we are having so many problems because of this illicit sex life. Thu. Janme sunadi grihamedi sukhami tucham. So, it's a big problem. But Prabhupada spoke for 5 minutes and then he never spoke about it again. He reduced every problem to philosophical understanding. He always saw from the philosophical point of view. He was never a doer of anything. He depended on Krishna fully for everything. That I saw in every action. He would pursue a certain line, and if it did not, whether it was going to be successful or not, he left it to Krishna. Some devotees were wanting to go from Juhu to Bombay by taxi, and I am kind of a miserly man. I said, why should you go by taxi, So I told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, your devotees want to go from Juhu to Bombay by taxi, it's very expensive. So Prabhupada said, I was objecting, and it was kind of, some devotees were getting a little agitated. So I told Prabhupada that, devotees are getting agitated because I'm objecting to this thing. So Prabhupada said, you just think like this. They were just like tigers, blood. It's like tigers drink blood, they were eating flesh and blood. Now they are chanting Hare Krishna, they are enjoying spiritual, they are dancing. Is not that a very great achievement? So if they want some money, just give them. If they are taking some extra money, if there is some fault, don't worry about it. Then next day in the class he said this money is very very hard to come. He said every rupee should be considered as a brick in the temple. Money is like Krishna's blood, and we should not waste money. So instruction. So to me he said you tolerate. To them he says don't. There's money. In other words, you can say the same thing, but you can say it in such a nice way that a person does not feel discouraged. This was the key principle in Prabhupada's dealing with every devotee. And that's why he was able to produce so many managers. In spite of all of us making so many mistakes, the movement grew because Prabhupada's kindness and affectionate nature. Another instance I remember is when the Nectar of Instruction came out, the book in which it is said that there is the last verses, they say that Vaikuntha janito varamadupuri tatrapi rasosavad. Greater than Vaikuntha is Mathura Mandal, and greater than that is Vrindavan, where Rasa dance takes place. And greater than Vrindavan is Govardhan, and Govardhan Radhakund is the best place. Where is a person who is in knowledge who will not serve the holy place called Radhakund? This is the verse from Nectar of Instruction. So, the Prabhupada's secretaries were complaining that now devotees have read this book and they want to come to Vrindavan. They want to give up their service in book distribution and they want to come to Vrindavan and stay in Radhakund because the Nectar of Instruction says like this. So Prabhupada says, just see the rascal. He is not even followed the first verse of Upadeshamrut and he is jumping on the 12th verse of Upanishad. The first verse is Vacho Vegam, Manasaha, Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udarupastha Vegam. One who controls the pushes of the senses, he is fit to be guru and make disciples everywhere. Sarvam apimam pathvim sasishyat. So he said, let him first follow this first verse of Upadeshamrut. Let him control his senses first. Then he can think of Radha. Just like monkey, he is living in the forest, on the tree, eating only fruits and leaves, but always thinking about where is the she-monkey. So he is jumping from branch to branch. So it's called Markata Vairagya, renunciation of a monkey. So this kind of desire, give my service when go to Vrindavan, is simply a monkey business. And tell them that first let them control their senses. Let them perfect the first verse of the Upadeshamrut, then think of the 12th verse of the Upadeshamrut. That was very instructive thing. Some other memorable events were when we went to the morning walk on Juhu Beach, famous morning walks with Dr. Patel, where he would be arguing with Prabhupada and Prabhupada would defeating, smashing his philosophy. So, every day, Dr. Patel had a very arrogant personality, but with Prabhupada, Prabhupada was like a snake charmer, He was charmed by Prabhupada. Only with Prabhupada, he would only be respectful to Prabhupada, nobody else, no other devotees. He would criticize every devotee except Prabhupada. And Prabhupada also philosophically would argue, but with respect. And Prabhupada also respected him. That Dr. Patel was proud that Prabhupada is like my elder brother. He was thinking like that. He said, oh, in previous life, I must have been your brother. Prabhupada would just encourage him. So, one day Prabhupada said something about Ramakrishna Paramhans. He said that Ramakrishna philosophy is totally bogus. Yato mat tato pat. And you can eat anything, you can do anything, and that's all the same thing. So this is totally bogus philosophy. It's atheism. And then he was criticizing Daridra Narayan philosophy. Daridra Narayan, Vivekananda had coined this term, Daridra Narayan, that Narayan is not in the temple, but he is in Daridra, means poor man. So better you serve the poor man than going to the temple. So Prabhupada was criticizing this, that if Narayan is in Daridra, then why not in the rich also? And if Narayan is in the man, then he is also in the chicken. So you are trying to serve the poor man and kill the chicken and eat. So Murgi Narayan, you are eating Murgi Narayan and you are serving Daridra Narayan. So your philosophy is contradictory. Prabhupada said that, why are you calling Daridra Narayan? He is Daridra. You want to serve him, you want to give him something. On Daridra you can bring compassion, but serve Narayan. You can be compassionate to a poor man, but service should be rendered to Narayan, to God. So this kind of confusion has made Bengal ruffians. That's what he was saying. So this one man, Gujarati man, Mr. Shah, he became bewildered totally. He just completely flipped out. And he started shouting, "You criticize everybody, you this, you do that. You don't respect any other saintly person. You only think that you are right. This is not good. Why you say like this? He was a great man." So devotees were very upset. They were going to physically remove him. Prabhupada said, "No, let him speak." Prabhupada was very calm. Just walked. He just said, "I am not saying anything. I am simply saying what Krishna is saying. Namam duskutino mudha papadyanti naradama." Those who are miscreants, foolish, whose knowledge is stolen away by Maya, they do not surrender to Krishna. So Krishna is saying they are miscreants. So on behalf of Krishna, I have to say this. I have nothing against that person, but I am trying to teach my disciples, how to judge the philosophy. That much he said. Then we walked silently back to the temple. And then Guru Puja started, and devotees were offering flowers. So this Mr. Shah, he was also offering flowers every day. So that day, he offered flowers to Prabhupada, and he put his head on Prabhupada's feet and started crying. He started crying bitterly like a baby, He felt repentant. And Prabhupada put his hand on his head and said, "It's okay." But he said, "From tomorrow on, we are not going to discuss anything. We are just going to read Krishna book." So from that day on, devotees would read Krishna book, one of us. And Prabhupada would hear on the whole morning walk. While walking, we would read Krishna book. It started like that. Another time we were going on a morning walk, and on the way from the temple to the beach, on the right hand side there is a person that's running a music class. So he came and offered obeisance to Prabhupada. So his Prabhupada said, "Yes, so what is your name? What do you do?" "Oh, I'm running a music class." "Oh, in that building, such and such music class." So he was surprised. You remember this, Swamiji?" So he said, "Yes, one should be observant." At the time of inauguration of the Vrindavan temple, Sri Prabhupada put me in charge of the kitchen. Oh, I also helped with the invitations and things like that, printing of invitations. And then he put me in charge of the kitchen, prasadam kitchen, which always took a lot of my time. I missed most of the celebrations, festivities. So he also sent me to invite various saints of Vrindavan to come for the festival. I went to invite Karpatri Maharaj. Karpatri was the biggest impersonalist of India at that time, most respected person, very strict sannyasi. Even though he was impersonalist, he was giving Bhagavad Saptahas and speaking about Krishna. He was living in Dhanuka ashram right next to ours. So I went to invite him for the inauguration. We had a week-long festival. Every day different saintly persons came. So I went to invite him. He said, "Well, I cannot come to your function." "Why?" I said, "Because your guru is giving Brahman threads to Westerners. This is not possible. This should not be done." So I said, "Well, why not? If they behave like Brahman, if they are rising early in the morning at 4 o'clock and they chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds every day, they study Bhagavatam, they study Gita, they study all the scriptures, and all day they spend in spreading the message of Sanatana Dharma. Whereas the Brahmins nowadays in India, they are becoming bus conductors and they are becoming factory workers and they are becoming postmen. So how do you think that they are Brahmins and they are not Brahmins? These people are not Brahmins. So I agree like that. I said, Chaturvarnyam Maya system, Guna Karma Vibhagasha. According to Guna and Karma, the 4 divisions are devised. Then when I had gone to that Vallabhacharya, he also said that your Guru is making Brahmanas, giving Brahman trade. So Prabhupada said, open Srimad Bhagavatam. So he asked me to bring Bhagavatam, 7th canto. Open chapter number 11. And it's the last verse. Narada Muni is instructing about the duties and roles of Varnashram in that chapter, 7:11. And at the end he says that if you see the symptom of a Brahmana in a Shudra, or a symptom of a Shudra in a Brahmana, then he should be accepted in that category whose symptom he has. If the Brahmana has symptom of Shudra, then he should be accepted as Shudra. If Shudra has symptom of Brahman, he should be accepted as Brahman. Yasya lakshanam proktam tasya varnabhivanjakam yadanyatrapi drishyata tat teneva vinidishyata. This sloka Prabhupada made me memorize in 1975, 74. So this was like somewhere deep in the scripture, this sloka. So I quoted this sloka to Karpatri Maharaj. And his eyes popped up like this. He said, your Guru has trained you very well. He was, because Prabhupada had told me this sloka, so I quoted this sloka back to him, Karpatri. Yasaya lakshanam proktam tasya varnabhivanjakam. So he said, your Guru has trained you very well. Then he said, but there is a tiger, actual tiger, and a tiger-like man. A man is considered, he is like a lion. So he is like a lion, but he is not lion. So he is like a Brahman, but not a Brahman. Like that, you can see how the Mayavadis use the word jugglery. So there was the example of word jugglery. So I came and narrated everything to Prabhupada, that this Karpatri was speaking like this. So Prabhupada said, did you tell him this verse? Yasya lakshanam proktam? I said, yes. I said, Yasya lakshanam. And he said that your Guru Maharaj has prepared you very well. So I started laughing. He said, yes, prepared very well, everything accepted, but still he is so envious he will not come to our function. So unfortunate. This wonderful temple of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is opening. He appreciated, but it was too hard, Mayavadi. The governor was there as a chief guest in the function, K.Chana Reddy, governor of Uttar Pradesh. So we had a very nice Vyasasana for Prabhupada. And we wanted Prabhupada to sit on the Vyasasana, inauguration day. Prabhupada said, no, I will not sit on a Vyasasana. I will sit with the governor in the chair. Because there is a protocol that when a governor is there, no one should sit on a higher seat. So Prabhupada knew this protocol. So even though it was his temple opening, the Acharya of the whole world, he himself made arrangement and sat on a chair with the governor. 1977, I went to one of his godbrothers' place, Madhu Maharaj's place. And there was another devotee with me. So I said, I am a disciple of Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami. Oh, so Madhu Maharaj said, oh, that is very nice. But I am senior to Swami Maharaj. I am senior to Swami Maharaj. He said that yes, there is Swami Maharaj was a businessman, so he is very expert in organizing. Therefore, his movement has spread everywhere, very well. But that is all external. Bhakti is something else. Bhakti is the spontaneous thing in the heart. So I could see he was criticizing. Then he gave me some orange or something. I left it there and I walked out. I said, this man is... I said that bhakti, I said preaching is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you consider that as an external thing? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, whomever you meet, you talk about Krishna. And he said, Haridas Thakur Nityananda Prabhu, to go door to door. And you think this is external. So then I left and I came and told Prabhupada this thing. And Prabhupada was so furious. For 3 days he spoke about this on a morning walk. 3 days he said, just see the envious person. He thinks that this spreading the mission of Lord Chaitanya all over the world and thousands of people are chanting Hare Krishna, that is because it's from business success. It's an external thing. What has he understood? He's a sannyasi for so many years. What has he understood? For 3 days he blasted. Once we were sitting with Puri Maharaj, and he recalls that B.V. Puri, he was a favorable man. He called Prabhupada, and when Prabhupada put the Mayapur cornerstone, many Gauravas did not come, but he came. In fact, he went to invite everybody, and they were not coming, but he came. So, somebody came from Calcutta, some big officer, government officer, and he was saying, Swamiji, I always go to Ramakrishna mission, and I'm following dharma properly. So Prabhupada said, you know these disciples of mine, these Western disciples, they will not go to Ramakrishna mission even to pass urine there. And then he blasted this man. He said that, what is this Jatam Tatopath? What does he teach? You are going there, but do you know what he is teaching? He is teaching you don't have to go to the temple. You don't have to chant. You just build your body and you just serve the poor. But Bhagavad Gita, there are 700 verses. Is any verse saying like this? So what is the mission? What is the use of this mission? If you do not repeat the words of Krishna, what is the use of this mission? And he blasted the man. Sometimes he would be very bold and very forceful, and sometimes he would cool. And I was in 1977 in Mayapur, and one day I was massaging him. In the night, it was almost, because he was sick, he had fever, so we were taking turns, and constantly somebody was staying with him. So it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was massaging him gently. So he woke up from his sleep. He had this almost 2 degrees fever. And he says, but these rascal scientists, they do not accept this. So you go and preach to them. Tell them that you are not the body, you are a spirit soul. And the proof of that is that in this life the soul is transmigrating from childhood to youth to old age. So he started speaking philosophy in the middle of night at 2:30 in the morning, in the middle of heavy fever. And then again went back to sleep after 10-15 minutes. So he was breathing, preaching. He was dreaming about preaching. He was living for preaching.
Je anilo